This is the Indianness podcast, stories of success from leaders and change makers of Indian origin. Why have Indians achieved success across so many different disciplines around the globe? I have no idea, but let's find out together because every story is unique and we have a very unique story with us today. I'm very excited to have Shailesh Upreti with us today. He's the founder and chairman of IM3NY, a leading lithium-ion technology company. He's also the CEO and founder of C4V, which commercializes next-generation battery storage. He also serves on several for-profit and non-profit boards. I invited him on this show because we are really at an inflection point in the world today as we transition to electric vehicles and sustainability. And Shailesh has a real deep insight into this. So, I said, let's hear it from him. Welcome, Shailesh. It's an absolute pleasure to have you on our podcast.
Thank you. Thank you, Sanjay. Thanks for having me. Pleasure is mine as well.
Wonderful. Shailesh, the show also, as I've said to you, is about, inspiring and letting people know about your journey. So to really understand the journey, we kind of have to go to the beginning. So can you share with our listeners as to where were you born and a little bit about your parents and siblings?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm from Uttarakhand. It's a northern state in India, foothills of Himalayas, beautiful countryside. And my village is called Manan, which is around 32 kilometers from the district Almora. That's one of the districts. There are 13 districts in Uttarakhand. And my parents still live there, so I still travel there every year almost. Try to find reasons to remain connected to the roots. And that's where I was born. And then.
But you were born in the village there, Shailesh? Can
yes.
you tell us? Okay, please go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, it's a village, very, very small village, beautiful, countryside, as I said. And that place is quite rich in natural resources, from sunlight to water to air, everything very clean. And I keep sharing with my kids as well as friends that, we pretty much like whenever we buy organic stuff, it's like luxury. But for us, it's been from centuries, everything still actually good part of our living there is fully organic. So that's grown up with that environment. And, that's after that, obviously I studied in different places, which we can talk about. But that's my.
Tell me about your parents. What were your parents doing? Tell us a little bit about your growing up time there in the village.
Yeah. So one of the uniqueness about our street is, almost from every family there'll be someone in the Indian defense. So my grandfather was in Indian Army. Then after that, my uncle he retired now, was also in Indian Army. That's very common in my state.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then my father, he just retired a few years back. He was a principal in college. So he comes with educational background. He has been teacher throughout his life. And I have been pretty much in the same schools wherever he was teaching. So I've moved around the state with him. And my mother is a wife, so she took care of us.
Oh, that's wonderful. So father has been academic. Mom obviously was making sure she was the CEO of the house, doing everything and managing everything. Any siblings, Shailesh?
Yeah, I have a brother who is an associate professor in university nearby, in same place. And my sister is she's a housemaker.
Wonderful. So when you were growing up, were academics a part of growing up, the discussions or perspective? What was the home environment like, Shailesh?
Yeah, it was actually very strict. You can imagine in Indian ecosystem when your father is a teacher. All my neighborhood was filled with teachers. Physics, maths, chemistry was always like it was obviously when you're a kid you don't understand the scope, and so it was enforced that you must have to study that, so which actually helped me a lot, logically growing my obviously whole analytics, my brain power. I think it helped a lot with growing in that ambience. It also helped me, when you are part of such ecosystem, you do get help. So while it was challenging that you can't play 3 hours continuous, you get 1 hour, and then you have to get back and do your maths every hourly maths, every day maths, and then other things that were part of the routine. But at the same time, I had access to all the knowledge power needed to grow and empower myself. So which was very, very, instrumental and helps me today.
So were there a lot of expectations put on you? Or you feel that there were a lot of expectations from dad, mom, etc., because you were the principal's son? Was there any pressure that you felt?
No, actually, I wouldn't say there was a lot of pressure. Somehow I would, I've been obviously quite, I've always loved studying, so I never felt the pressure like today in India here, like people, even students, committing sometimes suicide, which is a small part of the let's say the dark side of that system, but it has a lot of bright side, and I was more on the bright side where people were accessible, and I was given the opportunity to learn. Yes, sometimes you do feel, and that pressure was, and I wouldn't say it was a pressure to an extent where your mind is blasting. It just you have to, my father is very disciplined person, so he still wakes up like 4 a.m. Whether it's summer or winter, he has to take bath. Mostly it used to with cold water. Now he has started using, a little bit. So I come with that discipline. I was the most undisciplined person, still probably in my family. So he never enforced me to like wake up 4 a.m. or, you have to do this every day. It's more on the education side. I asked to do at least spend 1 hour in maths every day, and also 1 hour, learning language. Mostly it was, Hindi and English, also Sanskrit to some extent, and writing. He said if you can write good, you could be a good, person to communicate, irrespective of where you go. Although my writing's never improved, I still probably it's actually worse now. but the good thing is I had that everyday schedule where I had 3 different writing books, and I had to put a date and record it that I did spend 1 hour, kind of. So that was more discipline than pressure. And yeah, I might have missed some of those, and I might have, also received the feedback from father the way he wanted. And but overall, I think it was good system that he built for me to learn and grow.
What were you inclined towards when you were, like I said, growing up? Was it math, science? Were you involved in sports or anything at all? Friends? Did you have a bunch of friends? What was it like for you?
Yeah, I had friend circle. I would say I still have my school friends connected to my college friends. So I had a good friend circle. I'm very social. I have a very big social circle. I'm also, my hobbies, typically I'm into music, particularly because I come from that, close to nature backgrounds. My interests have always been in folk music, which is typically is considered the purest form of music because, it is kind of extracted from whatever happening in nature. So whether it's water flowing through the creeks and wind blowing through the trees, it just creates different musical forms. And that's how I think probably when music got invented, probably that was the source of inspiration. So I'm very much connected. I collect folk music and folk art and folk instruments, which I think also makes me feel I'm connected to my roots. But I go collection-wise, I go beyond just Uttarakhandi folk music. But that I understand that more, so obviously it's more closed and attached to that, and so that's my kind of extracurricular, you can say, still hobby. I used to play soccer. We used to call it football there, right? So so I was, in fact, in my 10 plus 2, I was the school captain for my soccer,
Mm.
which helped me, obviously, on your physique and body. If you're playing at least an hour or two, a game like soccer, that keeps you fit, body wise. So um,
Was it
I
make
felt
did
like,
it make you competitive also a little bit? The soccer, playing that and also being head of the team, you kind of have to take the team with you also.
yeah, I think that's, as you develop all these different attributes as you grow, I think these activities, back then you don't realize it, but I think it by itself or by default get embedded into your, brain power or your body power, I think, and makes you who you are. I believe some of the team player and competitiveness that you have to, because, when you are in college, there first the competition happened between different classes, then different
Yeah.
colleges. I did play for my college, so which, fond memories. So definitely brings, and India, as you know, in every course, every sphere of your activities, there's a lot of competition. We have a lot of people in every area that you have to compete with, from games to music. Even, I was representing our college in the folk festival, so there also it will be competitive. So we went to many different places across India to perform, and then they'll be given remarks based on, those performance. So
Sure.
I think that's I think in our overall route and how it is spread, different part of activities we do, the competition is always, but it's a into major part of it is not really a bad competition. It's a healthy competition, because in colleges, schools, they do teach you that, hey, you are playing, but if you lose, it's not end of the world, right? So that was always part of that competition. So they don't say like you are not getting punished if you didn't win the football game, right? You actually get motivated that you participated, next time do better. So that's the kind of competition I grew up in.
Well, that's good. One thing you said, Shailesh, was that you moved around in Uttarakhand because of your dad. He was the principal, he moved around. So did you move around to different schools also over a period of time?
Yeah. So my primary education happened in Delhi. My uncle who used to work in Delhi, he brought me to Delhi to do my, let's say, grade first through grade 3.
Okay.
And then, but after that, I moved back to Uttarakhand. And then wherever my father was moving, so I think I changed 4 or 5 schools between that 6th grade to 12th grade.
So was that difficult because new environment, new friends, etc. How was that? What was that experience like? Because it's a whole different environment, right?
Yeah. It's. I think definitely while we were always mentally prepared, because we knew there'll be transfers happening every few years. That's very common thing, but it psychologically it was not very good, because you make friends, and at that age, you get attached to your friends outside
Mhm.
home, who you are playing with, and your whatever inner circle you build. And suddenly now after 3 years, you have to lose those friends. It's difficult.
Mm.
While I'm still connected to some of them, actually several of them, but back then it was you will, whenever you go to new place, you have to set up your house and all that. So for 3 months, you're
Yeah.
living a little bit of disappointed kind of person, and then it just because psychologically you knew it will happen, so you come out of it and you build that same circle again. But it was, yes, challenging to some extent, but a short period challenge, I would say.
Do you think it made you a little more resilient for change? Because, I mean, you've had to deal with so much change growing up. One school, another school, you never know when this, because, in business or in personal life, changes the one constant that we have. Do you think that has made you more resilient towards change?
I think so. I think I'm quite adaptive to changes, whether it's moving for my work or moving for whatever region or travel for business. So I because of that background back then when I was growing up, I feel that has helped. Yes, psychologically, people sometimes they get depressed when they go for even for work, right? You're going some new place for 7 days. Um, so I'm adoptive at the same time, because I'm connected to roots. I do want to go back to my normal life, but I think I'm probably, yeah, in my family, I'm the most adoptive to changes because of that early, movement I did with the father.
Well, that's an important message. Now, how was your relationship with your brother? Growing up, competitive, inspirational, whatever.
Yeah, so I would say more inspirational. We hardly had our the gap in age is significant, so we were never like 1 or 2 year apart. So I think the competition was less, and because of me having that bigger gap between us, always allowed me to move ahead of him in places as well. So it was healthy. Yeah, it is. The relationship is still very good, and we share thoughts that I think because having grown up in the same environment, we have a lot of things that we think alike, and that helps.
No, that's great. So then, Shailesh, after schooling in Uttarakhand, where was the next journey? I mean, you did your 10+2 there, right? In Uttarakhand?
Yeah, no, 10 plus 10, 2 plus also I did my bachelor's in science from Uttarakhand, even master's from Uttarakhand. So I
Where in
pretty much-
Uttarakhand? Was that the same place that you were doing your school and everything?
No, so that's when I had to. So until like 10 plus 2, I was my father really and mother both, they never let me do any home course, right? So I wasn't doing anything other than just mostly studying. But when I had to move for the college, I have to leave. I had to leave home. So that was big change for me, and colleges there, you have limited, you have a lot of hostels, but my father wanted me to not to get into hostel because he was afraid that I'll get into a troubled, circle and might just spoil myself. So he asked me to pick some roommates and live separate from the hostel, which mean you sign up for wider responsibilities than you would be in the hostel, because in hostel you get a lot of things get done with the food and other things. So I had to literally learn how to cook, how to wash my clothes, and everything that you can think of, right, when living alone. So that was very good learning. Now, like today, I feel very empowered that I could live in any condition because I know how to cook. I can cook any Indian food. The most difficult one is roti, which I can make even today. And I try.
There are roti makers now also, as you know.
Yeah, it's been automated now. It's everywhere. Yeah, robots have taken life, but the good thing is, I think robots will never beat humans. So our knowledge base and our ability to adopt, I think that goes beyond the computing power and robotics. So which means mentally I'm prepared to handle any situation, and I can take care of me, my family. I have that empowered kind of strength because I, learn how to do every part of the life. I'm not dependent on third parties. If I have to do it, I'm willing to do, and I have the skill set to do it. The skill set, at some age, it's easy to develop, right? If someone asked me and I had not done how to make roti back then, it will be challenging.
So you were in a hostel now with some group of, because your dad was protective, and he says you were not in a hostel.
Outside
outside a hostel with pre-screened roommates by your dad. So how was that journey? That was for your undergrad and masters there, right?
Yeah, for undergrad and masters, yes. So initially, obviously, I didn't know how to cook, so I was given the responsibility to do the cleanup. And after 1 year, I realized that that's not the best course. So I decided that I should learn, otherwise I'll be, keep cleaning throughout the next 5 years. So So I actually learned how to cook, and that happened. And obviously, parents are very protective at that age. So my father will, talk to my roommates. How is he doing? Is going to college not in time, and is he helping in, contributing in house activities? So that also meant, and one thing I still remember, when I was leaving first time with my all my baggage to my room. I still remember that incident. So he actually gave me a 500 rupees or 100 rupees or 500 something, which is like
A lot of money
uh,
at that time.
a lot of money at that time, but not more than your 1 month or 2 month living, right? So he said, I'm giving you this 500, right? He had given me other money to take care of my
Of
other
course.
thing, but don't spend this $500. Just keep it in your pocket. And if you fail in your first year of your college, that is your ticket to Delhi, New Delhi, which is where most of the people will go from our place to work in whatever, in the factories or whatever they have to do, because you're not getting your education, so you better work, right? So so it was kind of an indirect pressure on me that you better
Do well.
pass with a good grade, do well, otherwise this is your ticket and you are not coming back home for
Home.
like ask more money for your living or whatever, because he was taking care of my
High
whatever
pressure.
fees, the high pressure. So I think that really helped. I actually did
Was that
very well.
motivating or that pressure that you feel? I mean, do you think that was right what he did?
I think it was, to me, it was I originally felt like it was very unusual thing, because it was just spontaneous for me.
Mm.
But then at that age, I obviously wanted to do good in studies. So on top of my interest area, I think it became an additional kind of responsibility factor in the mind that made me work really hard. And I remember, I think that my bachelor's first year was, I would say, is probably the hardest time of my kind of career building, when I was paying close attention. I had a pressure that I have to do home core, but also I had a pressure that I perform at the in my studies. So I gave really best of my time back then to my education. And I'm very thankful to all the friends who helped me through that transition, because when you leave your family and you're living alone, it's very depressing for the
Yeah.
first year. And so that and then you are doing everything of your own on top of that depression, right? It's a kind of temporary depression, because you're not having your parents with you, brother, sister alongside. So it's a different, complete change at the age of 18 years, 17 year. And but I think it also
So how
helped
did
me
you
to-
get out of that depression? Because it seems you came from a very protective family background, and then you were put out there completely in the open.
Yeah. And that depression probably maybe a strong word for it. It's not really mental depression or something. It's a pressure on you that
Change.
change. Yeah, change. And then I think the one thing definitely, and probably my interest in folk music is one of the, probably that was the transition period when I started learning that. So that also helped. And how to make friends. Initially, it was within that circle that I either has my classmate next to me, but then at that point, I started going into a wider circle of social whatever structure we had. So including people who are not of your age, because until then you were mostly friends with people in your class.
Class.
So either 1 year elder or one year younger to you will be your friends. But that was the first time when I started making my even teachers my friend. I still have my chemistry professor. I still communicate to him and still in touch with several of them. So the that fear factor that if your teacher is, you have to, in India it's like guru, and you can't really be too friendly to them until that 10+2. And then I started learning that no, it's not true. They could be really helpful in many ways, and and also making friends from different culture and different, at college you have people from different states. I had friends from like northeast India. That was my first exposure. um, Learning even some northeastern music, so that helped.
But was it difficult for you because that was, you said that was not your natural inclination, because sometimes in college 1 year about to use seems like an eternity in terms of difference. But so reaching out, was that difficult, or you really were able to quickly do that?
Yeah, I mean, where I am in life, I mean, obviously, when you go through that phase, you always feel this is the most difficult phase, right? So if you
Yeah.
had asked me question back then, yes, it was difficult, but now I feel like, oh, that was so much fun. That was so easy,
Yeah.
than what we are doing today. And, every day there is a challenge,
Right.
when, and on part of when you're building your company, building a product, and, there's takes so much of your time and mind,
Yeah.
and your family time. At that point, it was only one problem. Now you have 10. So
Yeah.
I would say if you had asked me back then, yes. But if you ask me now, I think that was a very easy thing,
Okay.
which helped grow my personality.
So, would you say that was one of our defining moments, because you probably became a little more of an extrovert, exposure to different cultures, etc., being in that environment?
Yeah, yeah, and that was the first time, also, because until then I was mostly studying in boys' college, so
Okay.
mostly boys, because still a lot of you have government system, particularly in Indian, let's say state level, we have different colleges for girls and boys.
Yeah.
So that was the first time I was, kind of studying with uh, girls in the classroom and interacting, so that your ability to kind of interact with other people increase. So it is, yeah, from many different ways, it was transformative for me, socially, family wise, my studies also, until then I was studying also language and other things, but now my focus was mostly science, because you're getting refined. So
Right.
I was in physics, maths, and chemistry in my bachelor. So it was many ways transformative for me.
That's fantastic. So then you did your undergrad, you did your master's, right?
Mhm.
And then where did that journey move on to? Where did you move on from there?
Yeah, so I think that's when I really started getting into understanding the fundamental of science, which makes me very strong today when it comes to, let's say, because now I'm very focused on batteries, but despite my almost majority, 90% of my time on the business side, I can still talk to technical people, scientists, and understand their, or at least communicate to them.
Mhm.
So that I would give the credit to the work and the education I got at the university. Kumaon University is called,
Mhm.
Almora campus. That's a different university, but that's where my fundamentals really got stronger. Also, I did way better in my studies. In fact, I was gold medalist. I was topper in my university in my masters. It just everything got to an kind of aligned with a little bit of fear, responsibilityness that I started feeling at that point, because you are at the age where you are saying, hey, you have been keep taking money from the father and the family. It's time to think about, to become responsible, and you have to take care of yourself. So which
Mhm.
means you have to compete, and you have to, whether it's a good job or whatever you do next phase, you have to excel. And that made me work harder on the studies, and also helped me get better marks and better grades in the college. So yeah, helped in different ways.
Well, that's good. So after the master's, what did you do then, Shailesh?
So actually, during my masters, as I went from first year my master to second year, I also I started getting inclined towards, I said, okay, I have now good grip over my science knowledge,
Mm.
and I wanted to get into business side.
Mhm.
I somehow had this always, you call from the beginning something in you that you want to do, kind of a feeling. And that's when I thought, while the academics is good, I should learn about the business side. So I participated in an exam that you had to give for the MBA, Master in Business Administration. So I got selected there. So from Lucknow, I did my postgraduate in international business management, which was another transformative thing for me to come out of the science and also learn business. I still remember like the Philip Kotler, which is the famous marketing book, and I that was my first exposure to marketing side. What marketing is, and what how you build business, and overall the business side. And I think that kind of the combination, or the hybrid of business and science um, kind of knowledge base was built at that stage of my age.
So you did your MBA. Now, there had been nobody doing business in your family because your dad was an academic, mom homemaker, etc. But you, I mean, obviously today you are, but you became inclined towards business. Was that just internally that you thought that you were interested in the business side?
Yeah, somehow internally, you're right. No one from my family, is in business or entrepreneurship. In fact, in my state itself is very. While we have, small, self-sustainable, small business mentality there, people do start their own initiative, but not to an extent that you can say that was your mainstream focus in community, that you want to be an entrepreneur or start your business. So it somehow, I don't know where it came from in my DNA, but it was there and I wanted to do it. So I did that. And after finishing my MBA, I came back, finished my master's as well in chemistry. That's when I really got good serious effort towards making my best to my master's. And then, so when the MBA really changed my little bit of thinking, what I want to do next. I somehow felt, and I think is that factor there in the society, that because the way educational structure is, you have, basic level colleges, then you have state level colleges, engineering colleges, and then you have IITs and IIMs. So when I did that, because I never had a brand behind me, so I thought it will probably always affect my career growth if I don't get something from a brand. And that's when I thought, okay, at this age, I can't go back and do JE and BTech again, right? It was too late. I did try, by the way, JE. My father always wanted me to try the best engineering colleges, but I obviously wasn't smart enough to get into that. So I thought I must do something from one of these top brands. And I came to Delhi. So instead of searching for a job, and I got some very good mentorship from my uncle who worked, he's now retired from IIT Delhi. And I was sharing my thoughts with him. I said, I really want to do something from a brand before I get into earning something. But at a stage, I also have I didn't want to just continue to study without, taking care of my own expenses. While my parents never let me feel that I'm burden on them, they always, but it's that age where you want to prove yourself that, hey, it's now I can take care of myself, and I want to earn and take care of at least my own expenses. So I started actually doing tutoring. So I was teaching people who were, students who were preparing for exams. I actually, while I did my master, it's kind of very unusual. When I did my master in chemistry, my favorite subject was always physics, and I was very strong in maths, throughout. So I started actually doing, while I was preparing for IIT, for GATE exam, which is the only way you can enter the IIT after JE. That's the another exam. So I started preparing for the GATE. So I gave literally 12 months, two of my uncles, the other one who retired from the Indian Army, I was staying with him, and helped me prepare for that. And I got very good rank in that. I did qualify. So very happy moment that I'll at least get into an IIT. I couldn't be smart enough through JE, so go through GATE. And then, my professor who also just got retired this year, Professor A. Ramanan, Arunachalan Ramanan. He saw some potential in me, I think. I wasn't, that smart I was good at fundamentals, but not to an extent that I'll do good research. So he saw some potential. He agreed to take me under him, and my uncle played an important role in having him, convinced him as well. Because on top of your grade, you still need to convince, your advisor that you are the one that they should take in, right? It's the second layer of competition that happened beyond written exam. And Professor Ramanan still my, mentor and still my guide. He has moved to US now, so, communicate with him often. So that was another transformative, I would say, breakthrough happened.
So that's also a defining moment there, right?
Correct, because that's what got me into this material science and energy that I do today. Because he happened to be the first student of Professor Stan Whittingham, who invented
Professor Ramanan.
Yes, so Professor Ramanan happened to be, so he graduated from here in Binghamton, where I am right now, at SUNY Binghamton, went back to India and became professor at IIT. And Professor Whittingham, if you know, he invented the lithium-ion battery technology.
The Nobel Prize winner.
Nobel Prize winner. So I became the third generation in that by getting into, becoming his student. And that's when I think I really started learning about the applied side of the science and technology. Because until then, I was mostly reading, all the theories and what chemistry is. Chemistry in my mind was reacting, whatever two chemicals together. Rather understanding, hey, it has a lot of implications in your life, day-to-day life. So, and that's when literally I started thinking about how to convert that knowledge base into something that creatively building new molecules. So my whole research program with Professor Whittingham, Professor Ramanan. I also did actually some research alongside with the Delhi University, Professor Vandaran Luthra. So all about material science and applied science, and got into these designing new molecules. So and the other thing that happened during my PhD, that IIT Delhi got its first, probably it was among the very few single crystal X-ray machines. These are basically X-ray tools where you can probe at the atomic level and look at three-dimensionally in the molecules. That's very actually excellent tool to, because, we eat salt every day. We know it's white color, but if you want to see what that salt looks like at atomic level, you got to go deeper into the science and tech. And then that tool gave me a lot of correlation between, let's say, the real life, the books to real world, and helped me, do. And I published a lot of papers in IIT. I still have more than 100 publications, which typically.
And you got your brand. You got your brand of IIT then with you.
And also that was my primary motivation to get into IIT, that hey, I can say that I also went to IIT Delhi and IIT, and it also boosts mentally actually. In that circle, it always, irrespective of what you say, sometimes doesn't matter, where you study, which is true, by the way. I think it doesn't matter where you studied, you build your own personality. That's no doubt about it. But when you do that psychologically in your own mind, there are always boosters, and these getting, graduated from brands give that access, that booster, which helps you in builds that confidence. You go in a meeting and say, hey, I also did from IIT kind of a.
So just to continue, so you finished, you got your PhD from IIT Delhi, and obviously you were amongst, some very high-powered people. Then how did you come here? And just give us a quick version of how you got here, and then the journey with obviously, the battery, IM3 and Y.
Yeah. So as I, was graduating, Professor Stan Whittingham he visited India. He came across some of my work, and then Professor Ramanan, suggested that I work with him directly, and that's how I ended up in upstate New York in Binghamton, and since in 2006, and since then I've been mostly in and around the area here, and that's what got me opportunity to work with the Nobel laureate. Uh, and a lot of, again, getting my fundamentals clear, stronger with him on the battery side. Now you're getting deeper and deeper into special area, energy storage, energy and batteries, which is very interesting area. Of course, I can talk about it for 5 hours and I will not bore you with that.
That's another podcast. That's a different podcast.
Yeah, that's a different podcast for the technology batteries. But my interest area, which I wanted always, that I study applied science. I felt like I had strong fundamentals, and then applied helped me grow my personality overall professionally. After spending time with him, I worked with a company who was producing materials for batteries, and at that point, I think was the next inflection point. I kind of around the same time I got married. My wife, she's also master's in physics and gold medalist from Delhi. She was working there in MNC, and when she came here, there were very limited options here. When you go to something like Binghamton, where job opportunities are not humongous, so we decided to do a kind of a startup in recycling. And we jointly built that business pretty rapidly, pretty good. We had clients in 7 countries. So that was my, you can say, first MBA outside the classroom, and learned a lot on the business side. And then while that was happening in kind of part-time manner, along with my other full-time job, I decided to focus on that a little bit for a while. And it helped a lot, and we sold that business, and then started my current company, C4B, in 2012, which then, we are growing pretty rapidly now, last 2-3 years, going beyond the US market. But the thought process again was, how to build a business that can be scaled rapidly, and in real world applied science, not the software side or IT side of real world, where launching mobile app could be much faster than building a battery. So rapid is still 5-10 year process in the manufacturing world. Not 6.
So just give a 30-second version of what does the company do, because a lot of people would not know that from that perspective. And you built something very valuable.
Yeah, the easiest way to understand, we call ourselves the McDonald's of gigafactories. So we want to enable gigafactories in emerging markets. We want to get into markets where, people are not empowered. Energy is not, in luxury. So a lot of countries where, let's say, renewable is the only way to sustain, as we all know, we have to start harvesting energy from natural resources, sunlight, wind, water. And these are very unpredictable source of, your energy. So you have to have a storage component. That's where we come in. And our goal is to get into markets where there's no such manufacturing ever happened. So we want to be either the first one or among the top 3 battery manufacturer in those countries. So we have built a very unique business model around our technology, which is cobalt and nickel free, which makes it more affordable, more available to people. And that's what we are doing right now. So while I think there's a little bit of social and let's say, philanthropic angle to it, going to people who need access to it the most. But there is a huge business potential there in going into emerging markets. So that's what we do. Of course, our first gigafactory is built here. The IM3NY, you see, is the first plant here in the US. But our next facilities are going in markets where, Australia, we have one, UK, we are looking at very uh, kind of seriously, India,
Mhm.
also Vietnam, uh, Indonesia, and some Eastern European countries. So we have built a package that similar to McDonald's, we can stand up, manufacturing rapidly, and that's what we are doing.
Wonderful, wonderful. Uh, Across the conversation, Shailesh, I've heard you talk uh, about mentors. You know, this person was a mentor. And we discussed this with all our guests. What do you think in your life the role of mentors has been? Just briefly, and mentors come in many different shapes, sizes, etc. What do you think has been that role?
Oh, immense. I mean, I can't really explain that in words. I think every phase of that journey, one or more mentors were there. Of course, my father is my best mentor today. A lot of his teaching helps me, at least I try to be disciplined, which I'm not very good at, but that's the first learning. But throughout that journey, a lot of mentors that helped me grow my personality, including here in the business startup world, and where we do need hand holding, guidance, and learn what not to do, which is more difficult than what to do, which you can today Google and there are 10 advisors there. But what not to do comes from experience, and you do need that hand holding, that blessing on top of hand holding, which is more like a spiritual power you need around you than just a verbal kind of command. And that spiritual factor to a command makes someone mentor, right? Because people can tell you what to do, what not to do. You'll find many people day to day, but then there are some who are spiritually connected to you that makes you feel this person is saying right and I can trust. That additional factor only can come from the spiritual energy around, right? And that's what I call, whether guru or mentor or advisor or teacher, I think that spirituality factor has to be there, which also bring the respect and the, you have to give back that respect. A real mentor never expect anything in return, but that respect is well deserved component to the mentorship. I hope that at least gives you my way of explaining how I feel about it. So which
Mhm.
means I am very, very thankful to everyone still, who are helping me and helped me in the past to, otherwise, I think it's very challenging to compete in the market and go from one step to other. I'm still learning a lot.
Hmm.
Journey continues.
Yeah. And as you said, the spiritual connection, not expecting things, and they come in many different. Maybe your uncle was a mentor in Delhi. Some of your roommates, again using loosely the
Yeah.
word mentor, but because you were on a new journey, maybe they helped. So because for people who are listening, they come in many different ways, and I think that's what you say. Do you mentor some people yourself also to pay it forward in any ways?
Yeah, not that smart enough, but I try to do that whichever angle I can. I try to, I'm always fearful I'm giving wrong advice, but I do help wherever I can, uh, because I feel it's a chain, and I'll be doing injustice to my mentors if I don't to carry that forward. So I try within the limit, whatever I can, or my boundaries where I feel I can advise in the right way, or this could help other people without, because of course, there is a business side on business angle to your professional life, but in your social and personal life, we have to be selfless as well. Many time, actually, most of the time, I would say, and I try to do that. Um, yeah,
No,
as
that's
ever possible.
wonderful. Yeah, that's wonderful. Uh, there is a very strong uh, Indian component to you, or a Uttarakhandi component to you that comes across, and there's obviously you're an American. How do you balance the two, Shailesh?
Yeah, so of course, I think um, as I said, when we discuss about the adoptive, how adoptive you are to, or people around you adopted to you. I think that thing, you have to build it yourself. There's no one else gonna help. And which means you have to also learn how learn those skill sets that make you enriched with diverse or diversified skill sets, and that helps. English wasn't my first language. I learned, and I can today at least communicate, if not an expert in English. So at least kind of. So that was just an example how you could be adapted to different ambiences and be part of it. Very thankful to opportunity, got here in the country, in the US. My roots are still there in India. I still carry Indian passport. And I plan to carry Indian passport forever. And hopefully that's the plan. I can't predict future. But that, makes me connected to my roots. At the same time, I have built new roots here with my family. My kids are born here, so that by default connects me to US as well. So it's India, US has a lot of similarities, a lot of resemblance in thinking and some social culture as well. Not maybe a lot, but still, there's always respect for people here, freedom to other, and that what we have learned. So it is not a country where you will be fearful how will you live, right? So it's a lot of freedom here, which is what is in India as well. So I think that part gives you good strength to accommodate and live happily.
Well, that's great. Your journey has been pretty amazing. A village in Uttarakhand, then IIT Delhi, PhD, and coming under the wings of Nobel laureate, now building gigafactories in upstate New York of all the places. Where do you see, and you've still such a long journey ahead of you. And it's hard to predict, but where do you see your journey going from here, Shailesh?
So I think definitely want to build a very successful, sustainable business, right? And that's my today's inspiration and motivation, right? Everyone wants to make money. If I say I don't, that I'll be lying. So definitely want to make money, but not in a way that it hurts anyone, it damages Mother Earth. So I kind of mindful of how to make money, but at the same time, do something that will be impactful. So there is an impact element to it, a little bit of philanthropic element to it as well. So I'll try to do that, give back, kind of do whatever I do, and then whatever scale it happens. Definitely want to try big scale. We have ambitions to build 10 gigafactories minimum by 2030. No single company has done this so far. 10 factories. It's a very challenging task, but we are committed to build a business model around that. So I'm hoping those factories will not be just production factories, but they will be knowledge engine. They'll be energy hubs and energy engines for these countries, which will bring energy independence on these countries, impacting people's life, making them adopt renewable clean energy, which is, I think, our first right. We should be inhaling clean oxygen. That's how our body is built. And if we can contribute to a small part of that, to have people inhale clean air, that will be good impact. So want to be part of that. I know if we do that, we'll be making good money too simultaneously. So that's where I think I want to go. Keep my growth balanced, financially, but more so environmentally and the socially and community wise.
No, that's great. So grow responsibly is what you're basically saying.
Correct.
So, that's fantastic. So, Shailesh, if you go back in time, we've taken you to the future. Now you go back in time to the Shailesh who's just graduated out of Delhi, or maybe after from the masters in Uttarakhand. What would you, if you were to have that conversation, think of me as that Shailesh, who's just come out of masters? What would be the 1, 2, or 3 things that you would tell me, the Shailesh of masters in Uttarakhand?
Yeah, I think one, I want to basically make sure that Shailesh is not forgetting about, in our place, obviously, a lot of migration happen. And this is very sad part. The state is right now pretty empty, a lot of it. Back then, I always had this feeling that I want to do something to reverse it. So I'll still say that same thing, that is there a way, can you do something that stops that migration, and can you build a healthy society and environment in your own, let's say, state? Obviously, doesn't, I'm not trying to be just specific to that, but that's your root. So you always think about it. That's one thing. Second, I think when I was very poor in like language. It always had hard time learning Sanskrit, learning English as well. So I was, I wanted to obviously focus on, I'll say, hey, improve that skill set, and can you be more, while science is good and you focused a lot, can you also focus on, the rest of the areas that are very important for your overall skills and overall personality development? Maybe those
Great.
three
Yeah.
points.
Try to reverse migration. I think Uttarakhand should appoint you as a brand ambassador, but that's a separate discussion. Focus more on languages. How about folk music? I mean, that's a separate, again, discussion and podcast, because would love to hear more about that. But those are great messages, Shailesh. Shailesh, at the end, we basically ask the same questions to everybody. And these are short, one or two answers from you. What is your definition of Indianness? Our show is Indianness, and everybody has a different definition. Now, your conversation, if somebody were to listen, they would figure it out, but would love to hear your definition of Indianness.
I think, and the best way, probably the shortest way to explain is, the Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, we have heard, and, it's the entire globe is our family. I think that mindset makes us Indian. And I think that is the key element of Indianness. We don't, truly Indian, don't betray people. We give enough freedom and enough space to people wherever it needs to be given. There is no gender bias. There's no religion bias in true Indian, right? I think that's probably, which basically goes back that the entire globe is our family. And if you think that, then from day one, your own activity, you'll not be throwing garbage on the road. You'll not be, creating things that, hey, it's like you are here for one day as a tourist. Let's, spoil this place. That mindset will not happen. I think that will make us a better responsible citizen wherever we go. And I will say that's the shortest way how I can explain the Indianness.
Beautifully said. The whole world is our family. That's beautifully said. Final question. One person, not in your family, from India or of Indian origin, who is living, that you consider, inspirational. You ask this of everybody too.
Yeah, my professors, if you, all my professors, have been my inspiration. I don't know if I can really put them in a queue and say this is the first and this is the second, but I think from my college time till like, Professor Whittingham, I still communicate with most of them. And so I'll put all of them in one category and call my guru, and that's my inspiration. Yeah.
Fantastic. Beautifully said. Because I think we don't emphasize, especially in the US, the teachers are in many cases underpaid, and the value is not as much. So I think you made a very, very good point. Thank you, Shailesh, for such an inspirational and wonderful conversation, and for being so open with the, people see the big success that you made yourself as a leader in gigafactories and lithium ion, but the start was not as glamorous as the journey has been. So thank you for sharing that, and thank you for being on the podcast.
Yeah, I appreciate Sanjay having me. And this was my first actually this kind podcast. So I think this is the first time I've been in kind of an open podcast sharing my history and my personal experiences. So appreciate you making that happen. And I feel really good. And thanks for inviting me.
Well, thank you. And I thank you for being so open. And as I said, Uttarakhand should make you a brand ambassador, but that's another topic. Okay, great, Shailesh. Thank you. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye bye.